Dove soap bashes the whale for using a fat suit instead of hiring an obese man. Quote, our identity is not your costume.
Weren't they just subtweeting him?
Yes.
They didn't even address it directly.
Nope.
It was just a tweet with zero context that says, stop giving fat suits awards! Exclamation point emoji. We want better representation in Hollywood. Hashtag let's change beauty. That sounds like even just saying let's change beauty, that's demonic.
I hate this. Like,
yeah.
Listen, first of all, corporate accounts, get off Twitter, get off social media. We don't like
And
nobody
they're bad
wants
at it.
you there.
And they're
Stop
bad
trying to
at it.
fit in with Stan Twitter.
Yeah,
That's
like
what
come
we want
on.
you to
And
know.
second off, yes, like I understand it's not the entire organization of the company of Dove, but you know what? It's some one or two interns that are projecting their own personal beliefs on behalf of the entire company, and it's Dove, it's Twizzlers, it's. The only one that can stay is Radio Shack, because that guy bought Radio Shack just to have the Twitter account.
Yep, and he's hilarious.
And he's
but my favorite was also there was this tweet that says, this tweet is actually funny when you realize that Dove's parent company Unilever sells ice cream, condiments, juices, and other junk. These corporations defend obesity because they want to keep their customers fat and unhappy so they can continue being good little consumers. You know, it's why it's why Pfizer invests in the Oscars and invests in all of these companies. They want to keep you at home in front of your television, heavily medicated.
Well, and you know, like in the 70s and 80s, when Big Tobacco was getting reamed for killing people, they did something very smart.
Man, we need to be able to put that in in a thumbnail soon. Reamed. So it's got to be one of the ones where I make the letters the different color.
But what they ended up doing is they knew people could live without tobacco, but they also knew people couldn't live without food. So they started investing and buying up tons and tons of companies in the food industry. So now a lot of those people that own Big Tobacco are the ones that own
now vapes anyways.
You know, yeah, it's a whole, you know, like Ian talks about a lot, how the same 2-3 companies own everything.
They're in big agriculture, you mean?
No, like Kraft Foods, stuff like that.
Because of the highest level too, there's like
sugar
holding companies that hold all the investment of all
and
these
so
major
they transferred a lot of the business over there, and because we can't live without food.
My other favorite part was one of the first tweets says, Jeremy Boring, Ben Shapiro, Real Daily Wire, when's Jeremy's soap dropping? And the very next response is from Jeremy Boring.
What did he say?
He says, I won't lie, it's our best product. They already have it because they have Jeremy's razors. So he says, our shampoo and conditioners are great too. And they have body soap.
There you go. They already went there. So.
Good moves. I like
so,
that.
you know,
it's a perfect product placement.
I watched a couple of videos that were like critiquing the Jeremy's razors thing the other night, or the Jeremy's chocolates thing the other night.
They did a chocolate review.
No, they were critiquing the commercial and whether it was. They're like they couldn't understand why people thought it was funny. And I never really thought of it as funny. I just thought of it as great marketing.
Yeah.
But that's great marketing. Dove does not know how to market to the internet.
But it's like, you know, they had a joke in there. It was the men's, the him was the chocolate with nuts in it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, oh, I get it. Haha.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't even
It's
that
very
deep.
easy to follow.
Yeah.
But for this one, also there's another account here from Fat Doctor UK, which I had to do some research into to make sure it wasn't
not a troll.
It doesn't look like a parody
Really?
account.
Dr. Asher Larmy, pronouns they, he, weight inclusive doctor, transgender, founder of hashtag no way, as in like weighing yourself, campaign against weight stigma and fat oppression. Views my own.
Wow, oppression.
And this person said, once again, just a reminder that The Whale was written by, directed by, and produced by 4 thin, white, rich, able-bodied, cisgender men. Oh, and check out its quote-unquote fat star, who was celebrated and honored at the Oscars last night. What an effing joke.
They don't know what acting
With
is.
a picture of Brendan Fraser just, you know, existing, doing his job, which is acting.
He's the thinnest he's looked in years. He looks like $1 million compared to like what he looked like a few years ago.
He
after
has
his
been
wife,
overweight.
Yeah, when his
so
wife
if
ruined
he's
his
had
life.
that experience, doesn't that satisfy your standard? But even if he hadn't, who cares?
There's this joke, and it's a really dark joke. It's not even, I don't even call it a joke, but you don't see obese people in their 70s and 80s.
Well, you don't.
Do not see that.
It's not
And
a
the
joke.
reason is they die.
Yeah, read it.
Oh, you got one. Matt's S-Box Emporium said 20 whole bucks to troll on PCC now. Big sad. I am a gorilla.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I mean, that's not even really a joke. I mean, they've done that in episodes of House, where it says you don't see a lot of overweight elderly people. That's not a thing. And I was also
There's
thinking,
a reason for
I
that.
was thinking about that too, because there is a very well-known episode of House that involves a morbidly obese guy who's also an agoraphobe who lives in an apartment.
Yeah.
Played by Pruitt
that
Taylor Vince. And the irony of that episode was, like, as House does irony very, very well, he ends up dying of lung cancer, even though he never smoked a cigarette a day in his life. But he's like, so they spend the whole episode trying to figure out how his weight is connected to the fact that he's like something's wrong with him.
But then it like subverts your expectations.
But it was actually good back then when they did it, and it's
Yes.
still tragic in that. And in the very beginning of the episode, he's literally, it's House making fun of him for like 5 minutes, and he's like, "Fat joke. They're the only people left you can make fun of." And then he lists all the other groups you can make fun of, which you can't anymore. But he's like, "Oh, except for Jews and black people and women and he literally lists all the groups that like because
great.
it was the early 2000s, and
You could make the joke about
you could
that.
still make those jokes back
Yeah.
then. I would actually pay money to see them try to make that show again today. Not to actually watch the show, but to watch the writers attempt to write the character.
They wouldn't.
But you know what
Again.
filled that void is they had to go complete 180 because of how just terrible. Like you said, you can't make those jokes anymore, right?
No.
So they had to do 180, and now like they've got The Good Doctor, right? So if you ever seen that,
I hate
it's
bathtub
basically
television.
it's basically filled the void. It's always these crazy diagnoses that they only get at the last minute. But instead of like a seasoned guy that's a genius, it's a kid with autism. So he'll never make those jokes.
If I remember
you know?
correctly, there's an
Okay.
episode that that talks about PDF files as if it's a
medical condition?
Yeah, like if
Ew, what?
I could be misremembering that.
That's
like
awful.
I remember the article about that, but
I think that all of this outrage marketing is actually doing Brendan Fraser a favor, because like a lot of people saw The Whale as a big comeback moment for him.
Well, it was.
And now that he's getting hate for it baselessly, people are even more likely to support the project. And I think it's ridiculous to expect that somebody gain hundreds of pounds for a role when that could literally kill them. And he, name an actor who is like 400, 500 pounds with the skill and prestige and experience of Brendan Fraser. There isn't one.
The closest-
and it's not because of oppression or discrimination.
The closest example I can think of is Jonah Hill. He's known for having his drastic weight
Well,
changes.
he goes back and forth, yes.
He goes back and forth,
to
but
the
he's not
extreme of
500
like
pounds.
400,
I know,
500.
no,
not going
he's
Absolutely not.
I would say he's maybe gets close to 300, and then he'll
You can
shift 100
literally,
pounds.
like shorten your life by doing that,
Yeah.
by yo-yoing and by going to
Christian
such
Bale
an
does
extreme.
this. Christian Bale does this all the time. He drops down for the
I
Machinist.
didn't see anybody sending Lily Collins any hate when she didn't, drop down to the actual weight that of the character she played in I forget what it was called. It was like To the Bone or something.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
This movie about a girl with anorexia.
Yeah.
She was not expected. Yes, she lost weight for the role, but they used CGI to make her look more emaciated than she was. She was not expected to get down to like 70 something pounds for her role because that's life threatening. Likewise, I don't think that anyone should expect Brendan Fraser
So would the
to do
argument
the same
be
in the opposite direction.
that they should be doing it with CGI? They're like, we wouldn't have a problem with it. Like, it's kind of like we've made this joke before. It's like, I've talked to somebody who's like, his girlfriend will make him any amount of food, but she won't make him a sandwich because of the stigma around making someone a sandwich.
my gosh.
Like, they'll let you make somebody fat with CGI, but they won't let you do it
tell
with a
you-
fat suit because there's a stigma around fat
Listen,
suits.
we all know that from the very start, Lizzo should have been cast as the Whale.
That is true. You could have done that. Then they get the race swap
then-
too.
yeah.
And gender swap.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Like, do I have to
they'll
do their
make a
job
they'll
for
make
them?
a remake in a they'll make a
Come
remake
on.
in a couple years anyways. But
Yeah,
but no, she wouldn't want to do it. Or they could have had
I just think of the tagline: Lizzo is the Whale.
oh gosh.
the poster would be incredible. They could have had Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson was literally
Thank
famous.
you.
Oh yeah, it's like Jurassic Park.
It's, Batman Forever.
Sick.
Okay.
Oh, it's not done. There's more. This one was long. I admit it. That one was on the long side.
That's so ridiculous.
Sorry.
It's
Fat
like going.
Doctor UK also said, the point I'm trying to make here is that other oppressed minorities have made it clear that it is not okay for the white wealthy elite to write, direct, or star in movies about them. This should apply to fat people too, as we are an oppressed minority. This film also won Best Makeup and Hair.
Yep.
Thank
you.
I think that in order to be an oppressed minority, that should at least be based on an immutable characteristic. Being fat is not an immutable characteristic. It's a choice. Yeah. Sorry.
John Good. Oh, somebody mentioned John Goodman. John Goodman could have. John Goodman's on the heavier side for sure. Like, and he's. I mean, he's a lot older than Brendan Fraser.
No fat actor is fat enough to play the character. In the Whale.
Well,
they would have to get so fat that it would cause them lifelong problems.
Well, the other thing is, like, you're not going to get that performance out of him that he gave. Like, the reason that the movie was well liked was the performance that Brendan Fraser gave. And when you put someone that's either 70 pounds, let's say it's an anorexic person, or someone that's 500 pounds, they're not in a state, like, their body's not physically healthy enough to give their best as an actor.
Right.
Like, I refuse to, and so it's like, you're not going to get the same movie. It's just not going to happen.
I'm sure even if they had fat.
Oh, that's a good, Ethan, I see someone chatted, Ethan Suplee. That's a good example. He was huge, and now he's jacked.
Yep.
Right.
I just I laugh because these people, they're just not. Rebel Wilson had to lose all that weight and then got in trouble for it for losing all the weight. They got mad at her.
Well, she said that she was under contract to be overweight
no,
for
but
a
I'm
while,
saying,
and then when she lost weight, people were like, you're glorifying anorexia or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just,
Wow,
it's purely
what a take.
jealousy, the fact that people aren't willing to admit to themselves that being thin is better than being fat objectively. It's better for how you feel and better for how you look, better for, honestly, how much people respect you.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact of life. If you're not willing to admit it to yourself, whether you think that that's ethical or not, that's how it is.
And people constantly, they try to make it like, oh, don't be fat phobic. But it's like, listen,
Everyone's fat
we're not
phobic,
talking
though.
about being a little bit unhealthy. We're not talking about being a little bit overweight. We're talking about being obese. And that doesn't happen because
Being
you
immobile.
ignored, you were lazy for a month and ate like crap. No, that happens because of years of you living a certain way and refusing. I don't care if it's a health condition. There's treatments for it. Yes, it sucks and you have to go an extra mile, but there is a way.
I'm gonna address bring this comment up because I think it's fair. It says Radioactive Girl Scout says being fat is not a choice always. Oh my God, you guys are insufferable on this topic. It is not always a choice. There are medical conditions.
No one denied that there are exceptions.
Yes.
We were just talking about this yesterday in regard to Ozempic.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, most of the time when someone is overweight, it is related to lifestyle. Not just most of the time, the vast majority of the time. And that's why we're addressing it that way. We don't need to make a big disclaimer every single time that we address a topic like this.
I was just going to say, and even those people that do have medical conditions, there's treatment. It sucks. It's going to be hard work, but there's treatment.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that, the complaint about fat suits is grounded in reality. It's obviously you're just like looking for a vector of attack, a way that you can fit into the oppression Olympics.
And the other thing
no
is
one sympathizes.
It's not like people that are slightly overweight or like in a natural body. Like Drew Barrymore's a good example, right? You mentioned her at the beginning of the show. She's not skinny, but she's not overweight, right? She's natural, a little bit bigger, right? But no, that's not the person they're platforming. They platform Lizzo.
Yeah.
Who's just the extreme of the extreme, and that's the issue.
And celebrates it and demands that you also celebrate
so people
it.
think
And if you
that's
don't, you're
the norm.
hateful and a bigot.
You know,
Not only that, but you're fat phobic if you don't date people of a certain size, which is just a whole other level of like violating people's conscience.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
And it's not so black and white,
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.